Just going to bring my laptop a little bit closer here. Welcome to day 2 of Organized AF Bootcamp. If you are just joining and watching the replay, we're going to start in about 3 minutes, so you can skip ahead to about 3 minutes. I'm just on here making sure that everybody can see me and kind of finds me. And so I'm just going to check in with the Facebook group. Okay, I see myself. So much fun to be doing this. So if you haven't joined yesterday, I'm Kayla. Hello. And this is my first time this boot camp using Restream, which is like a third-party tool that allows me to stream in both YouTube and Facebook. So far it's working and I'm excited about it. All right, so we're going to get started in about 2 minutes for today's content. It is Organized AF Bootcamp, and we're talking about what proactive leadership looks and feels like. So I'm pumped. Let's just do. Yesterday, I tried to do an Instagram story while I went live, and the thing would not post. I do not know. So let's see if we can try it. Let's see. Oh, man. So if you're watching this, I do have Instagram at KFA Consulting, although I really focus more on YouTube and nurturing my email community. So if you highly likely that you will see me here or in the inbox and occasionally on Instagram, but I still like the post there. So let's do a story. Phone is like slow, so I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Hi, everyone. I am live for Organized AF Bootcamp, and we're just getting started. Wanted to say, let the Instagram community know that I'm on. So let's get started. Oh, I see someone else has joined. Exciting. And we are about to get going for day 2, which is what proactive leadership looks and feels like. Fun. All right, let's post that. All right. So it is our starting time. It is 4 o'clock Central when I'm recording this, and I'm live. I'm excited for people to join. So, hello, welcome to day 2 of Organized AF Bootcamp. This is a 4-day free bootcamp to help you get more organized at work, which is going to help you just be more proactive leader. And when you are proactive, you are perceived as very organized, you are given more opportunities, and you get more promotions, which is more money. And also it leads to happiness when our mind, our work, all the things are organized. We just feel more at peace. And you can get time freedom when you're more organized. You can have money freedom when your salary increases. And overall, you just have less of this burnout, and you're vibrant. You're able to start thinking like you used to, being creative, implementing some of the cool, fun things instead of just like getting stuck in the daily task and the grind. So I'm here to help with that. Yesterday, we talked all about just like the mindset you need to have when becoming a proactive leader. And I talked about starting with the end in mind. And we learned a bunch of different frameworks. So if you haven't watched that, go back to day 1 and check it out. Don't worry. I want to let you know, like, if you want to participate in this challenge, but you're joining late and you missed a day, don't feel like you have to, like, that you can't participate because you missed a day. Just start at day 1 and keep going, even if the challenge is over. I'll be leaving these lives up for a few days post the live so that you can gather this content if you're a little bit behind, and that's fine. If you're in the middle of this challenge and you seem to miss a day, like, don't stop. Just keep going. Start where you left off. It's not a problem. I don't want you to feel like, oh, well, I missed a day, and so now it's not going to work out for me. It totally is going to work out for you. It's going to be all good. If you are joining us from the replay, comment replay and let me know where you're coming from. If you're new, if you haven't been here before, let me know if this is day 2 for you. And if you already watched day 1 and you're excited to be here, just say hello in the comments. If you are live with me, you can put your name in the chat, say hello, let me know that you're here. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, I welcome you. All right. Let me share my screen and get the presentation going. I gotta get in presenter mode here. All right, Organized AF. And I'm gonna put my hair up because I'm hot. All right, so Organized AF, welcome to the Organized AF Bootcamp. I'm so excited that you're here for day 2. Oh, let me actually split out my screens like I did yesterday because that worked really well for me. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm here to share all about what proactive leadership looks and feels like. And so I'm really pumped to share this with you. I think I sent this out in my email to my community yesterday to let you know. But I was putting these slides together and I was like, oh, maybe this is my favorite topic. Just because I love talking on all the things, but this is going to help you take leaps and bounds in your organizational systems. So, yeah, let's get started. Some housekeeping. I'm here every day, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Central to 4 p.m. Central or 5 p.m. Eastern. So Monday was yesterday. Today is the second day. I'm going to spend about 45 minutes teaching on the lesson or the topic, and then I'll have a Q&A after. So if you have a question during the presentation, feel free, definitely go ahead and put that in the chat live. And I will try to get to your questions. If you're live, I will try to show your question on the screen. I didn't do a very good job yesterday of doing that, even though because I'm learning, but I will try to do that today. If not, don't worry. We have 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. And then I will assign a daily homework or action every day so you can make real progress on this journey. And I just want to say, y'all, the homework you submitted was bomb, and I'm super excited about it in the Facebook group. I love seeing it. I have to go back in there today after this live and comment on a few more posts. And I love that you're sending me emails as well. So if you get the replay email, just send me a note back. Like, tell me what you thought if you want to do that more on a private level. I was excited. I had some things in the inbox today, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. Submit within 24 hours for a chance to win the giveaway. So the giveaway is 3 months of one-on-one career and leadership coaching with me for free. And then I changed this from yesterday. So surprises instead of later this week will be coming tomorrow. So there's going to be a few extra things that I'm going to be sharing with you that I'm going to be giving away. I cannot wait to share. I hope you love it. I really do. Let me just check my Facebook. Got a little reminder. Okay, I'm good. Okay. All right. So, summary for day one. Yesterday, we talked about how we should spend most of our time and energy on outcomes. Therefore, it makes the processes and the tasks and to do so much more easy to know, like, what are the right things I should be doing? You know what you need to do and you know where we're going, rather than spinning your wheels in tasks and then never making it to outcomes. We also talked about the lean framework of when we make things easier for our teams, for ourselves, our workflows, thinking about our outcomes, we make them better, which means higher quality. We know what we're hoping to achieve. We can measure the quality. We can do things much faster if we know where we're going, what we're supposed to be doing, and things are therefore cheaper, right? It takes less time. It's maybe less supplies, maybe less energy, and so they cost less. We also talked about the colorful popsicle and the starburst, or like the firework. So just know that in the spirit of your role, there is so much that you can do when you stop focusing so much on what are the things I'm doing every day, like the tasks, and really start with the end in mind. Like, what am I hoping to achieve in my goal? Why does my role exist? What am I here to solve, or what problems am I here to solve? And that can sort of open you up to limitless possibilities of the cool things you can do at work, rather than feeling like you're boxed in by just like, here's my daily duties. I feel like whenever I ask leaders, like, what do you do? They're like, a lot of stuff. I don't know. Maybe like they're like, I don't know. I don't even know what I've achieved. And I think when you focus more on the spirit of your role, it's a lot easier to be like, that's the right thing to be doing. We also talked about creating your personal brand at work. So, how do you want others to perceive you? When we talk about proactive leadership, it often is about perception. However, it's a feeling that you have inside as well. Like, you know, you have your shit together. That feels really good. But also, like, if you are perceived in a certain way at work, you're more likely to be giving more opportunities. And I know that can sound like unfair, but I'm just talking about the reality is that there's a lot of folks at work that are organized professionals, and you've got to stand out. So what is the one thing that makes you uniquely you? And for me, I feel like that's creativity, that's my sunny disposition, and that's my can-do attitude, as well as like my ability to like connect the dots. And so think about what that might be for you. And if somebody was to say, "Oh, Kayla's this," what would you want that to be? And how can you get closer to achieving that? All right. So just a roadmap of where we're going. Oh, and I didn't update this one. I updated the later slide. So yesterday, oh wait, no, this is correct. I was getting ahead of myself. So yesterday we did the key elements to organization that most professionals overlook. And then today we're doing what proactive leadership looks and feels like. Tomorrow we'll be talking about how to add the most value at work and love doing it. So we're going to be talking about like kind of how do you organize your day and life so you can spend the most time on value added things and actually enjoy the shit out of that. Like, I want you to be like, I'm a boss. Like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is how you should feel at work. So, I know many of you are looking like, oh, I can't wait till she talks about organizing my calendar and all of that. I think many of you have heard this before. So, I really want to focus on some new things before I'm like, okay, this is how I manage my day. I really want to make sure that I give you like these golden nuggets before we dive into the value added work. And then the last day, we're going to be talking about automating your processes and reducing decisions and unnecessary stress and fatigue. And again, tomorrow, we're going to be talking about some surprises. Yay. Okay. Today, you'll learn a day in the life of a proactive professional leader. All right. We're going to be talking about how proactive leadership and professionalism looks and feels. The tiny shifts that are made every day so that you can get and stay ahead of the game. We're going to talk about how you can create more time for creative thinking. So, we're going to talk about how to make space today. And then tomorrow, we'll talk about okay, now that you have space, now you can spend that time on the creative thinking. Spend less time on fires and and to-dos. So less time on just like the things that rip you away from your work and like those tasks, like wheel spinning tasks and to-dos. And we're going to talk about spending more time in strategy, vision, implementation of big positive impact projects because you have a lot going on. All right. Yesterday, I kind of shared like where you're at. You want nothing more than for work to feel easy and for you to feel your best. You want to be perceived as that person who's like, she rocks her shit. Like she knows what she's doing. She's got control. She can make anything happen. And this is a story from the inbox. Randy sent this to me. I hope it's okay that I'm sharing this with you. But this is like a real story. And this has been my life before. And I want to show you this, and then everything that I'm showing you today is going to hit on how to address some of the problems in this email that I received last night. And this email has many different ways we can solve the problem. So let's just read it together. So she emailed me last night and said, "It is so scary how dead on you were about the drowning so much in the day-to-day tasks that you're never able to catch up and be proactive. I have so many processes, tools, improvements started for my team, but were pushed off for higher priorities, meaning deliverables that were visible to those outside of my immediate team. I just I was just today trying to compile a list of all the projects, initiatives, improvements, etc. that I'm currently working on so my manager can help me prioritize, but everything is a high priority. So girl, I just want you to know, and I emailed you back like I see you, I empathize, and that is a very real situation. So we're going to work through that. If I kind of give you some just upfront advice and like comb through this really quick, I see a few problems you could address. So it sounds like you've got a lot of like teed up things like process improvements, new tools or templates that you want to implement on your team. So I surmise that though the reason you have those pending is because you think by implementing those, it would create real value for your team. And that if you would just be able to do those things, like we had that prompt in Facebook and in the lesson yesterday, if I could just implement these tools, we could sail so much smoother. So I want you to be able to bring visibility to those things with your leader to be like, hey, before we take on outside work that's more visible to the organization, let me, one, create visibility to you about what's pending on our end and show you the value that those things would bring so that we could really just move the needle so much faster. So we think about the easier, the better or higher quality, faster, cheaper model. It's kind of the same for you, right? So, how do we bring visibility to the things that you need to do on your team before you take on extra work? Create visibility to when you bring things from the outside in that something has got to give. So that means things that have been prioritized on your team are going to have to like pause, stop, or drop, basically. So have your boss help you with, well, what would you like me to not do? Right. And that's a tough question. Nobody wants to answer that, but those are real questions. We're living in reality. And then talking about the priorities. Everything is not a high priority, although people feel like it is. We need to sift through that. And I learned from one of my mentors, she used to say, like, this might be a 2, like on a scale from 1 to 10 to you. You might feel like this urgency is like a 2, and to someone else, it can feel like a 10. So somehow we have to meet in the middle and have a conversation to be like, okay, here's what we're willing to compromise. Here's where we're willing to prioritize this amongst all the other things. Because when you're looking at one thing sort of by itself, it's like, oh my gosh, this is important, urgent, like we need to do this yesterday. But compared to other things, okay, maybe it's not as high priority. So we're going to talk about all of that. So if you are feeling like this, you are not alone. This is a real thing. And it's a complex thing because it's like you have to advocate, stand up, and potentially push back and speak truth to power. Okay, so I need you to know 2 concepts before we get into today's meat of the content. The first one is this wonderful book. It's called Making Work Visible. And I put a halo over it and like little stars and gems because this book changed my life and helped me so much. So when I was studying and doing work for my lean course to learn about process improvement, I heard of this book. It's called Making Work Visible, and it talks all about how to expose time theft to optimize work and flow. So really what the goal of this book is to teach you how to make all of your work visible. So not in your head, not written words on a paper, but somewhere where you, your team, and your leaders can all see it. Making work visible helps with communication. It helps you stay organized and helps people live in reality because it forces you to articulate what you're working on and make it public. So we're going to talk about that. If you are interested, this book is found on like Amazon. It's I think it's like $27 or $28, so fairly affordable. But you will be like reading the whole thing. You don't even have to read it. You just need to like look at the pictures and like mark the pages. It's so good. The second concept I need you to know about is A3 thinking. So this is another like lean concept. A3 is the size of a page. So you may have heard of like a B5 or an A3 page size. So an A3 is like I don't can't remember, but I think it's like 17 by 11 or something like that. So A3 is just a format or a page where you would write out a project plan. But I want to highlight what I think is the most important concept from A3 thinking. Well, maybe 2 concepts. But this is sort of a mindset and a framework, or you could say it's like an algorithm that you should use anytime you're trying to solve problems or create projects or decide if you should be doing something. So, first thing is first is when you're trying to solve a problem or you have a problem in front of you, you need to know where you're going. A lot of times people will jump in for solutions. They're like, oh, this thing's broken. This is how we fix it. And you're like, well, how do you know? How do you know that's what's fixing it? How do you know that's the root cause of the situation? So lean really focuses on root causes and attacking the right issue and not like all the issues and not going straight to problem solving, but really learning and seeing the real work. So what we want to do is go from current state to which is your problem. And then you want to think about like, where do I want to go to be? And that would be your future ideal state. So you the difference between your current state and your future ideal state is a gap, right? So if your current state's here and your future ideal state's here, in between, it's like, how do we get there? So the goal of A3 thinking is to really think about, how do we close the gap? And so we want to ask yourself, like, okay, where are we going? So the future ideal state, and what do we hope to achieve? So thinking about the end in mind, what's the outcome? See how it all ties back to yesterday, what we talked about? So how do we solve gaps? We solve gaps by evaluating or creating ideas of what are possible countermeasures. So a countermeasure is something that is designed to close the gap. So if you're thinking, if your boss is like, we need to fix XYZ, instead of jumping to solutions or saying like, they're like, this is what you need to do. Okay, identify like, okay, here's where we're at right now in our reality. Here's where we want to go. Or maybe that's the question back, is like, what do you see as our future ideal state? And then work on just closing those gaps with countermeasures. Oftentimes, like I said, people will jump to solutions, or you're not clear on what the actual gap is or what the future ideal state is, or perhaps you have gaps in knowledge about what the current state is. So you want to learn as much as you can about what's really happening by going to Gemba, which just means going where the work is done, or walking through the department, talking to people, and maybe mapping that out. So really understanding what's true for today. I think sometimes leaders a few rungs up the ladder might not know, and they're making assumptions based on what they used to know or what's in the past. So I just want you to know, like, put a little nugget in your brain, like, this is the kind of questioning you want to do, because when you're able to push back and ask these questions, or say we need time to evaluate our gap and our future ideal state, that kind of slows things down, and you're able to vet projects and be like, oh, you know what? None of these countermeasures are actually possible. Let's go back to the drawing board. Maybe we need to adjust our expectations about what future ideal state truly is. All right. And A3 thinking also includes having a timeline for projects, and having, if there's multiple projects within one like bigger project, having accountable owners, like who's going to not necessarily do all the things, but be accountable for making sure that work happens. And also, if you're doing a process change or a project, I want you to remember that you need to measure that. So you need to ask yourself, how do we know if we're successful? So that's what I mean by key performance indicators, something you can measure that tells you that that countermeasure is closing that gap. Or process measures. So I guess key performance indicators, probably like a lagging measure. Like after something's done, you can tell if you're like improving. Process measure is like along the way as you're improving, what are like tiny little indicators, or I'm trying to think of a better word, but measures that you can look at that shows like, oh, we're gonna be on track. All right. So a day in the life of a proactive leader or professional, typically what I think proactive leaders are doing is reviewing their projects, roadmaps, and their goals. They focus on monitoring and asking questions if things are off with their key performance indicators or key behavior indicators. Not sure if you've heard of KBI before, but really KBI, you can measure KBIs for yourself. Like, if I'm supposed to achieve XYZ, what behavior would I need to be doing every day, every week, every month to be able to say that, yes, I'm going to achieve that goal? So I don't know, you can think about that. And we'll talk more about that in standard work when we talk about that tomorrow. Proactive leaders have intentional, active communication. They also probably talk with lots of people. They might have one on ones with their leader, team members, or stakeholders. And they also spend a lot of time reflecting, like, did that thing work? Did it go as well as I had planned? And maybe they are having ideas generated. They're constantly taking notes. They're like, ooh, I thought of another thing we could potentially do. And they just have like the free mind space to be able to think of ideas. They're present when they're with their team. They go to Gemba, which means like rounding or visiting with their team, listening, hearing what's actually going on in the department rather than kind of hoping that information is fed to you. And guess what? They take breaks. They eat their lunch away from their desk, or, maybe they're at their desk, but they're chilling. They are going outside when they can. They are modeling the behavior that they expect from their team, which is to protect your energy and self-care. It's not about working every minute of your 8 or 10-hour day, whatever it is. It's about being the most efficient you can be, in a healthy way. So it's a balance for sure. So the first topic we're going to talk about is managing priorities and timelines. So this kind of goes back to the email from before. And here's some just points to think of as we're going through like different templates you can use. So remember, everything is not urgent. And remember that you are currently living in reality. Like the resources you have today, the things you know today, the things you do today, the people you have today, that's your reality. We're not living in like, if resources were endless, what would we do? That might be our aspiration, but in real life, we're living with what we have. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. Lots of times you can be strong armed or overhauled by maybe people who have more power than you or have like a better title, not a better title, I should say, just like a higher, a different title than you. Like, for example, I work in healthcare. Someone with an MD after their name gets a little bit more pull than me sometimes, right? So squeaky wheel gets the grease, which just means like they're going to be heard and those concerns are going to be voiced to the top and often public. Don't be fooled though. Just because squeaky wheel gets the grease doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. And so you really, really want to kind of just be weary of that and have a questioning attitude and don't feel like you have to do every single thing that comes your way just because someone's being loud about it. Imagine what it would feel like if everything you've worked on is important, right? Like it's important, but it's not urgent. Now think about that. We spend a lot of time in the important and urgent space. But what if it was like, these are all important things, but none of them are urgent? That would be a proactive space because over time, things that are important and not urgent become urgent when we don't deal with them. Projects are best managed visually, like we talked about, and we'll see that. And visuals can be made to communicate to various levels in an organization. So you can tailor the same visual to manage and up to your boss to share and communicate with them, as well as communicate with your team, with your equals, or with stakeholders, or with people that are on your team or that you manage or are below maybe a leader that you manage. All right, so we've all probably seen the Eisenhower matrix, which is important and urgent. So, Eisenhower matrix says that you should focus on the important and urgent things because they're time sensitive and they add value and you should take care of them. And so, while I agree, I think that is sort of like the firefighter spot that we live in, and that can be uber stressful. So I actually put a smiley face by scheduled tasks that are important but not time sensitive. Put those on in your calendar. All the things I'm showing you today are going to help you get to the place where you focus on important and not urgent things in a proactive way rather than like my hair's on fire and everything's important and everything's urgent. Like I really don't want to normalize living in this box because that is where burnout lives, even though that feels like the right place to live. Something that's less common that I see and I'm not sure if everybody has seen this, is the effort versus impact matrix. So this matrix has a couple positive fields, I would say. So this one works by how much effort or resources need to go into making the thing happen, and then how much like what is the impact or like that's going to have on the team, right? So if something is low effort, maybe that's an easy thing to do, but high impact, it means like it's going to have a great positive impact on the team, and that's going to help like remove a barrier for the team. Or if that one thing was done, it makes things other things that are not done easier or unnecessary to do, right? It kind of like fixes other things. So that would be kind of a just do it, and maybe not necessarily a project, because it's easy, like minimal resources, let's just take care of it. The next matrix square right here next to the smiley face is the high effort, high impact. So these are projects, usually projects because they require lots of resourcing and management. And if you decide you're going to do these things, they need to be planned in advance, and they probably need to have some sort of A3 structure around it, where it's like, what's our current state? What's our future ideal state? How do we close those gaps? What's the timeline? Who do we need on this project? Right? So I think, like, what if we took a mix of these two matrices and made our own matrix? Because I'm all about like changing things and shaking shit up. So I would argue that things that are important and high impact but not urgent is where I love to live. So that's why I put the home there, just as like a visual reminder for you. I love to live in an important, a high impact, and not urgent space, because that to me is proactive. That's me like planning ahead and being like, what's possible for us that's going to have a big impact that I can lead or generate. It's our hair is not on fire. It's going to have huge wins. Like let's start planning this thing. Like let's be proactive and be a visionary. So just want to remind you, you're going to see things on social media and LinkedIn and all of that. That's going to be like, focus on what's important and urgent. And it's like, yeah, almost everything gets there, if it's important, um, over time. And that is the firefighting place. Let's get you to the important, high impact, and not urgent. I put like a little man in a disguise down here with a reminder for myself to tell you my emergency room turnaround time story. So I just want to just like I said, caution you that sometimes things that are disguised as urgent and important, but they're really not. So I had a story about how for one of my blood bank sites from one of my laboratories, we never measured our emergency room turnaround time. And this is just because the volume of our testing from the emergency room is pretty low compared to other service lines that we provide testing to. However, when we changed computer systems a couple of years ago, other sites in our system were measuring their emergency room testing turnaround time, because they have large volumes of testing for blood bank coming from their emergency room. I wanted to create a system turnaround time targets, because we've never measured our turnaround times sort of like weighted as a system before. And so I went ahead and had a turnaround time created for this one site that never had it before. Lo and behold, the turnaround time was created, and what came back, we noticed we were only hitting like 60%, 50%, 70%. And we're used to hitting 90%, 95%, and meeting our target. So all of a sudden the team is like, "Oh my gosh, Kayla, we have to do something about this. We're not meeting our quote unquote goal." And I was like, "Okay, let's take a breath and think about this. Is it important to meet our turnaround time goal?" Yeah, in general. Is it high impact right now to the patients? And we were trying to think, like, how would we measure that? So we started thinking, did we get any complaints from providers in the emergency room saying they're waiting too long for blood products? No. Did we get any patient safety events saying that they're waiting or we didn't get their test done in a timely fashion? No. Were all of the patients in the emergency room getting testing done and blood done in a way that met the needs of the patient? Yes. So we're like, okay, so if nobody's squeaky, right? Nobody's complaining, patients are getting what they need, then why fix what's not broken? So now we're able to see something we weren't able to see before, but we don't have really any urgency to fix it. So let's just not make that a project and let that be. So I just want to share that example for you to just to let you know sometimes things are disguised as like, "Oh my gosh, this is a huge problem because we're not meeting the goal." But really think about like, if you were to work on that goal, like what would the impact be? And if there's no real reason to change anything that's not broken, then I would say like save that energy for something else that you've already got on your list. So just kind of wanted to share that story because when I was a newer leader, I think I often jumped to please everyone, and now I'm totally okay being like, you know what, we don't need to do anything with that data that we have. It's all good. All right, managing inputs and outputs. So I'm going to share with you sort of a Kanban board and how I manage like things that come in, whether that's like projects or tasks and how I group them and prioritize them for my team, including my leaders and then our frontline team members. And then we'll go from there. After that, I'm going to talk about communicating all of those things up to your leader as well as to the team. So I'm excited for this part. So, um, inputs and outputs. Work in progress is like just like what it sounds like, what we have going already. Unplanned work is categorized as work that we didn't plan for and is now entering into our work in progress. If something comes in, something else likely needs to pause, stop, or like I said, drop. So, like, let's pause on one of these things to make room for something else. It's kind of like in decluttering or minimalism, people are like, if you buy a new pair of shoes, you're supposed to get rid of one. It's kind of like that because it's like we only have room. We're living in our reality, right? For XYZ amount of things. So we have to get rid or stop or pause on something else. Work does need to have an accountable owner because if it doesn't, then nobody's accountable and everyone else is thinking someone else is taking care of it. The leader, you potentially, doesn't need to own everything. You just have to have oversight. And projects do need a clear scope and a deadline, or else they might sit on your Kanban board forever and ever. And that is just like so sad. You want things to move. Okay, so we talked about making things visible. So I'm going to just give you like a quick up to speed what this might look like for projects. So you might use Post-its. I'm going to show you Post-its. I'm going to show you a virtual Kanban board as well. So I like to organize my work into simple systems like categories like planning, doing, or done. And I'm going to show you a couple variations of this. So this is how a project might move through this visual management board. First, you have project one, and you stick it in the plan phase. And you're like, okay, I'm going to think about what resources I need, learn about the problem, understand the current state. Then I'm ready to do work on it. So I'm going to start implementing any changes or processes, taking actions to move this project forward, like piloting a new workflow, etc. Then once the project's accomplished or we're sustaining and we're no longer auditing it or maybe like looking to see if it's working or looking at those KPIs all the time, it can be done. And so you might have 3 projects where 2 are in the plan phase, one's in the do phase. Maybe you have 2 things you're doing, something else is unplanned work comes in and you're like, "Oh no, I need to start planning, but I realize I've planned and I only have room for 2 things in the do." Well, maybe project 1 over here moves back and project 3 moves forward. So you can see how it can be dynamic. So let me share with you oh, I forgot about this slide. So this is the Post-it method. So it's hard to see, but this column is plan, do, check, act, in progress. And I think this one is like on deck. These might also be like different labs. And oops, this is like sustaining. So I think it's like on deck or planning, and then in progress, plan, do, check, act, and then yeah, sustaining. And then here's me. I don't know. I think I was trying to like this is like in my Instagram phase when I was really into Insta and I wanted to post cool pics and clearly I don't know, me popping in front of like some post-its. Um yeah, but this is like I'm obsessed. So, all right. So, let me see if I can actually make this bigger by getting rid of my face. Never done that before. Let's see. face back on here so you can see me. There we go. This might be with an email or directly communicating in person, like saying like, nope, I know that's something that's been heard of. Let me set the record straight. They communicate to leaders with their barriers, obstacles, potential risks for help, and they take action behind the scenes. I love sort of like pre-escalating things. So if I see that things are sort of starting to derail or there's a risk that's like on the edge, I will just be like, "Hey boss, heads up. It's like a pre-escalation. You might be hearing about a thing. I don't want, you to like escalate it up anymore, but I just want to let you know so that it doesn't like catch you off guard." Um, and they ask their teams, what do you think is the biggest risk for today? And that would be a great place to focus. All right. Because I know Brandy and others have asked me about how do I make the work on my team visible to my leader? How do I communicate to my leader who can then communicate up? And I really wanted to share this with you. I'm going to hide myself again because I feel like it'll just be helpful. Oops. Very good. So, a note on or a word on goals, goal setting. Super important to be a proactive leader. You want to have extreme clarity on what's expected and when you're setting goals. That means you need to have SMART goals. So, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. That being said, it's important you choose goals that you're excited about, or else you might not want to work on them throughout the year, or goals that you based on things you're already charged with or that you have to do. Therefore, you will accomplish them. Those are also easy goals. Because remember, you are often compensated or paid or get a performance based raise or increase based on if you met your goal or not. So, if at my company, we have a rating system where essentially you can get like up to 5 points, and each goal is weighted. And if you get like an achieve, and an acceptable or like an acceptable or achieve, that's going to be a different score than exceptional or exceeds, right? Or if you get a B for below because you missed, that's going to be a different score than achieve. And so, total all those things together, if you miss one of your goals, maybe that's the difference between you getting like a 1% raise and a 4% raise. And that's pretty big. So, I would encourage you to take ownership of those goals. Don't assume that your leader is going to ask you about them because, one, they may not even work with you to set them. If they are good, they will work with you to set them. But even good leaders get busy and may not always make the time to talk with you about your one-on-one about your goal progress. So make sure that you bring it up. And remember, there is a school of thought that goals are dumb. And I can't say I disagree with that, because I think we maybe sell ourselves short, or it's like there's only room for so many goals and we're working on so many things. Like, just give me the credit, right? So I do think goals can be like vectors where you're in a direction and you have a magnitude, like a speed at which you're going, right? Like, I'm going the right way, I'm going a certain speed. But I do think they are adjustable and you can course correct throughout the year. So do change your goal if it's no longer applicable and you know you're not going to hit the target. Like, don't sacrifice your compensation or your success by just failing to, oh, yeah, I forgot to update my goal in the software. But you do need to set a measurable goal, something you can measure so that you can say you have achieved or exceeded. Okay. So please do bring that up. With your leader. Don't forget about you. We often spend so much time, especially for leaders, on our team. And we're like, great, our team had success. And you would think that that would automatically mean you are successful. But if your goals were not the same as your team goals, then that can set you up for failure. Let's see how many slides I have. Okay, one more slide and then homework. Okay, communication framework. So, if you are needing to convey something really important to your leader or something to your team, like you're dispelling a rumor, or you're going to proactively share that you're going to be piloting a new program, or you're asking for feedback about something, you're sharing a resource. You can really use this framework for anything, and it's called SBAR. So, situation, background, assessment, and recommendation. So, you would literally type out the word situation, background, assessment, recommendation in an email, or you can even use this as you're talking, like in this format in like a bulleted list. So the situation is, what is the need, the ask, or the real issue or problem that you're trying to communicate? Background is, how did we get to the situation? Assessment is, now that we know the situation, what have we learned? What might happen if we don't change? And what are the risks or costs, etc.? And recommendation. What do we recommend as the next steps? So for example, if I would like to hire someone new and it's out of my budget, but it's based on the fact that we just have more growth or more volume of work, I have to write an SBAR. So I might write something like, I propose that or like write it necessarily with you in it, but like, there is a need to hire one FTE in the blood bank. The need exists because we have X number percent increase in volumes over that has been sustained over the last 6 months assessment. What have we learned? So I would include like how much is this FTE going to cost the department for salaries or benefits? How much might our reimbursement be from that additional volume that we're doing? And might that kind of outweigh the cost of the salary or benefit? Or how quickly will I make that return? And then what would happen if we don't change? I might say, like, if we don't hire, we will be higher in our turnaround times and we will provide a less quality service. And maybe learning, like, here's the work that this FTE would do. And recommendation would be approve new FTE requisition in hiring software. So you could see how easy that would be. Is like the leader would be like, oh, they're asking for new FTE. There's more work. If we don't hire, we're not going to do as good of a job. And they want me to approve the posting. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. All right, so we're at the end. So our homework is, I want you to pick one framework that I shared, or one template, or one system, whether it's like the Kanban board, SBAR, the active project list, or this dashboard for your leader, your DES or your frontline team's daily engagement scorecard, this project roadmap. I want you to pick one of those, and in the Facebook group or in email, reply and let me know like which framework that you love and that you want to implement at work, and share why you chose it. So maybe you saw a framework and you're like, oh, that would be really good for this. I want to try that. Let me know. It's super simple. Again, I loved seeing your homework yesterday and you all did amazing. And so I know this is also going to be adding value to you as you like decide to do some of these frameworks or templates or systems. So I can't wait to see which ones are your favorite. So we're going to just skip through the Q&A. I did not see any comments. So unless there are some comments, I'll talk through the reminders and let me know if you have a question in the chat. So reminders, tomorrow we will be back at 4 p.m. through Thursday, 4 p.m. Central or 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll do 45 minutes or like an hour on a talk and then a Q&A after. We're doing the daily action, so you can take action and make real progress and submit that on Facebook or by replying to my replay email within 24 hours to be entered for the giveaway, which is the free one-on-one coaching for 3 months from me and or some surprises. And remember, tomorrow we're doing how to add the most value at work and love doing it. So we're going to be talking about leader standard work and some other tools to manage your workday personally, not just managing your team or communicating out. And then Thursday, we're going to be talking about automating your processes and reducing decisions and unnecessary stress and fatigue with sort of like streamlining and templating your work. All right. Thank you for participating in day 2 of Organized AF. I'm so happy you're here. I will see you in the Facebook group or in my inbox. And until tomorrow, take care. Thank you so much. I will see you later.